Greetings, everyone. This is Ukraine Media Center in Lviv. My name is Oleg Panyuta. We have a very interesting interlocutor, and he will share some important things about some relevant developments. This is Vasyl Bodnar, Ukraine's ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Türkiye. Vasyl, greetings, Lviv. Well, we can see that the situation has already improved because the caravan of vessels with Ukrainian grain is moving towards the Bosphorus, and one vessel has already undergone all the procedures and is on the way to the end consumer. Uh, what is the attitude in the Republic of Turkey? Well, the perception is very positive, and it is positioned here as a big victory of Turkish diplomacy. It's essential for us because Ukraine signed an agreement with the UN and the Republic of Turkey, and we are demonstrating our capacity to fulfill our commitments. It's not really about the exit of vessels, but it's also about global food security and proceeds for our budget. It's of the utmost importance for Ukraine to develop its trade, to enhance its business capacity. So it's a comprehensive issue indeed. And I really hope that there will be more gain from this agreement than even can be expected now. Vasyl, can you tell us more about the inspection procedure for vessels loaded with grain? Word has it that this procedure lasted for about 1.5 hours. So what can you see and detect there within 1.5 hours? Isn't it just a formality? It was just an agreed upon procedure. 16 persons, 4 persons from each party. What is important for us that we are working with the UN and the Turkish counterpart. So communication is taking place via these intermediaries. The inspection team members perused all the documentation. They met the crew members. They checked the contents of the vessel. Of course, from a physical perspective, they cannot really inspect 27,000 tons of wheat or corn. You cannot really dig down to the very bottom. But at least you can use some distant probing equipment and some remote inspections. Qualified professionals are involved, so they know where to look and they know which sections of the vessel require a more rigorous inspection. All the Ukrainian vessels were inspected while exiting Ukrainian ports, and the sale of Ukrainian grain is in compliance with the interests of the 3 parties that are signatories to this agreement, Ukraine, UN, and the Republic of Turkey. When this monitoring center was operating on board the vessel, you said that Ukrainians did not contact or did not communicate with the Russians. So are there any potential cases when this Ukrainian-Russian communication will be necessary? The coordination center is operating in Istanbul, and there are the representatives of 4 parties there. So it looks like a big square, us on the one side, then representatives of the aggressor on the other side, and then between us, representatives of the UN and the Republic of Turkey. So from a physical perspective, this communication is possible, but from an official perspective, it takes place via the intermediaries within the agreement. So you have 3 parties, So you don't really have the signatures of Ukraine and Russia on the same piece of paper. And that's why all communications take place by official avenues. On the flip side of things, we have this inspection team. It is comprised of representatives of this coordination center. So they go to specific vessels, they inspect these vessels. So some contacts are there, but there's no communication. We will do everything possible to prevent any abuse on the part of the aggressor, because we don't really want to be accused of trying to strike cooperation with Russia. In the Republic of Turkey, they have been talking about the fact that this grain agreement might be used as a solid foundation for broader peace talks around Ukraine. But the president of Ukraine and the Minister of Foreign Affairs have clearly stated that we cannot really even discuss ceasefire while Russian troops are still on the territory of Ukraine. This is our principled stance, and we do not really link grain agreements to the process of peace talks or ceasefire. It's a fake tool that can be used to mislead part of the population, so we don't really want to propagate any false trends and conceptions. Well, today's meeting between the Turkish president and the Russian president is of importance here. What are some dangerous consequences that might ensue? Well, we should not look at this situation only with our own eyes. The Republic of Turkey has its own claims towards Russia. It's not always pleasant. The Republic of Turkey has its own interests, and they are trying to promote these interests by conversing with Putin. But what is important for us is mediation. The Republic of Turkey has been trying unrelentingly to bring the parties back to the negotiation table. You remember the talks in Istanbul, then Antalya, and then the talks around the grain agreement. So this mediation role of theirs will be a dominant one. And later, I guess, there will be some contacts with the Ukrainian party after this visit that would be appropriate and politically correct from the perspective of their role in the situation settlement. But there are some stories that we don't really like, everything pertaining to territorial relations. Within our two-party format, we continue negotiations with the Republic of Turkey. We want them to join some restrictions imposed by the US, the EU, so we want them to limit their cooperation with Russia, which is not in line with their interests. Unfortunately, we don't really have any direct leverage that we can use to influence their decisions, and we need to understand that not everything will happen as per our wishes. So before the war, there were these two parallel tracks, the Ukrainian track and the Russian track within Turkey's external policy. They still exist, and this is something that we view very delicately, and any joint meetings or activities will evoke an emotional response in Ukraine. You said that the local media position it as Turkey's victory, but what about the strengthened role of Turkey as a regional actor? Is it to the benefit of Ukraine? Definitely. Turkey is our strategic partner before the war. We cooperated a lot in the defense sector, Bayraktar and multiple other things that are assistant in defending our country. It's also about enhancing our combat effectiveness. It's important to have a stronger actor in the region that would balance off the Russian Federation. We can also develop other areas of cooperation like trade. I really hope that after the war, we will resume some other domains, tourism, culture, science, and we can also engage businesses in recovery, the implementation of new technologies. We can also replicate their experience of developing industrial areas. There are a lot of upsides here, and it's not really about someone being a younger or older brother. Ukraine has already demonstrated its credibility and reliability. For the majority of the Turkish society, Ukraine is an actor that can defend itself, and the Turkish society commends Ukraine because they also had this war in the early 20th century. And a lot of Turkish citizens and business people have experience of visiting Ukraine, so they know quite a lot about Ukraine, which is promoting Ukraine's positive image in the Turkish society. So it's a beneficial story for Ukraine. I mean, Turkey has a strengthened role in the region, but we should not really conjure up images that fly in the face of our expectations. So we should not really create any idols. We need to pragmatically work with those people that we should cooperate with. And if something is wrong, we need to respond to it. I have a follow-up question, if I may. The fact that Ukraine is a significant player in this region is accurate, but can we use their influence to deal with this case of stolen grain, like this vessel in Lebanon was let go? Because all these vessels and ships have to cross over the Bosphorus and Dardanelles. Well, from a formal perspective, we cannot really close the straits. The Montreux Convention stimulates that any vessel with a legal flag can cross any straits and no one can stop them. There are exceptions for dangerous cargoes or illegal cargoes, then this vessel can be stopped or seized if it poses a danger to the Republic of Turkey. So there is a formal facet here. But unfortunately, the aggressor utilizes a wide range of methods to export stolen grain to the Turkish markets and also to the markets of Lebanon, Egypt, Syria, and other countries as well. We are doing a lot of work in this direction. We had a very similar situation with the Jurbek Julie vessel a month ago, so it was a very similar situation to the current situation in Lebanon. That vessel exited the occupied town of Berdyansk. The Turkish side believed that that decision was an appropriate one. They let the vessel go, even though we believe that it had to be seized. And now we have a very similar story in Lebanon, which is a testimony to the fact that we need to do more work in the legal domain. We have already transferred 5 petitions from our General Prosecutor's Office. And next week, we will also have some consultations between the law enforcement bodies, our General Prosecutor's Office and the Minister of Justice. And we expect the Republic of Turkey to impose appropriate restrictions so that the Russians will not be able to export stolen grain because all this grain is supported by required certificates and licenses, so it's very difficult to have this cargo seized. We've been working on this issue for about 3 months, and certain progress is there, but it's too early to disclose any specific outcomes. I guess that within a short period of time, we will be able to share more. One more question, if I may. Officials in Ukraine hope that this restored grain route will allow us to export up to 3 million tons of grain per month. But won't it create issues in terms of the speed of passing for the coordination center? Are there sufficient physical resources to inspect all these vessels and then let them go? The coordination center has a specific model of operations. They have a clear-cut procedure for inspecting vessels, but for inspection purposes, there's a stand-alone inspection group or team, and it is comprised of 2 representatives from each party. As you have already mentioned, an inspection lasts for about 1 hour or 1.5 hours, so it's not really a hefty amount of time. Empty vessels heading towards Ukrainian ports will undergo the same inspection procedure. And since all the procedural items pertaining to inspections and coordination center operations are in place, we will see how things will pan out. We didn't really have any issues with the first vessel. So we will see shortly whether we will be able to ramp up the volume of exports to reach this target of 3 million. So you have 57,000 tons on 3 vessels. So if we do some math for 30 days, we will be able to easily achieve this target. Take into account that right now we're talking about those vessels that were already in our ports waiting for quite a long time. So it's also a matter of loading. It will also determine the number of vessels that we will be able to use. But it's also important to give thought to opening new ports, so we need to broaden our horizon. It might be necessary to increase the number of goods, because it's not only about grain, but it's also about minerals, fertilizers, for example. And when the war broke out, most of the ships that didn't make it to Odessa and other Black Sea ports were unloaded in Turkish ports. And so we had to transport all this cargo by vehicles, which is an expensive endeavor. So basically, we can expect this grain corridor to transform into a regular transportation corridor if everything goes as per plan and without any unexpected situations. Well, if we succeed in achieving victories on the front line, we can set whatever goals. We need to oust the aggressor, at least from the Kherson region. It's like the liberation of Snake Island. Thanks to this, we were able to reach this grain agreement. If we have more victories on the front line, we will be able to sign many more agreements. Thank you very much, Vasyl Bodnar, Ukraine's ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Turkey. He was live with us. Thank you very much. All the best to you, and we will be looking forward to more positive news from you. Thank you.